Are traditional foods still healthy? So you might read in history books that ancient empires lived off, for example, a lot of rice, a lot of bread. Is that still applicable to these days? Can we do that in our modern times? So, from the huge use of glyphosate and other highly toxic pesticides on plant foods, to the high presence of genetically modified corn and soy on animal feed, to the macroplastic content in wild fish, to the pasteurization and high adulteration of dairy. You can see the average eggs are no longer safe. The average cheese is no longer safe. As an example, mozzarella used to be fermented. They used to wait for a specific pH to be reached to start spreading it. But now they just add a liquid, pH turns instantly, and they start spreading it. So there is no healthy curing fermentation anymore, for example, in that case. The average poultry and pork, for that matter, is no longer safe. The average grains, greens, fruits are no longer safe. As an example, American people that might be used to reacting very purely to, for example, bread or pasta or any other form of grains might come to Europe, and that this happens quite often. And they go to Italy or France and they eat the grains that they have there and they have zero symptoms. Because even though grains are not ideal, if you ferment them, if you cook them properly, and if they're glyphosate free, you'll probably be mostly fine. And if you do it sourdough with an ancient type of grain, you probably won't even have bloating. So eggs need to be pasture raised. Cheese must be raw. Poultry and pork should be doing a species appropriate diet. Plant foods should be organic, peeled and seeded, sometimes fermented, and even other times with the special treatments and cooking. So all of this was the norm back in the day. So if you do what they did traditionally, traditional foods will be healthy. But if you don't do those required steps, you won't have health anymore. So you can translate things without translating the norms that were used back in the day. So today, if you want to live free of concern, if you want to just live your life, go to a simple restaurant and not have to ask 1,000 questions if they're fermented, if they're pasture raised, if they're whatever. Even for yourself, you just want to go to any place, to any supermarket, any butcher or whatever, you don't want to think too much. The only true safe food that exists today is ruminant meat. It is the most, not high, but the most nutrient dense food on the planet. You can live just off of fatty ruminant meats. It has every single component that you might need. It has components that no vegan is able to get unless it supplements with, for example, taurine, carnitine, carnosine, B12 in high amounts, choline, etc. It is the best food by far. It has the best track record for healing and well-being. Just look online at the testimonials, people eating it. Just look at Jordan Peterson, his daughter, Michaela Peterson. They are doing better than they've done in their previous years just eating fatty ruminant meats and drinking water. Sure, they're adding salt, and if they wind off the salt, they would be even better. Trust me, do your research. Salt creates fluid retention. Fluid retention dehydrates you, so you'll never be at your full potential. And a plus one about ruminant meats, it is that it is the least probable to cause sensitivities food there is. So if you do an elimination diet and you remove all the things that might trigger you, just the little bit of symptoms, that whether they are physical, you might have some joint pain, you cut, and you find it, and you eventually find out the only true food that will never cause sensitivities: ruminant meats. This is cow, sheep, goat, bison, deer, elk, etc. And those are safe, even if it is 100% beef patties from McDonald's. They will be very, very good. Not ideal, not as ideal as grass-fed, grass-finished, but even like mostly grass-fed and not grass-finished is great. Like, you can live off McDonald's for the rest of your life if you just eat the burger patties. For as long as you don't season it and don't salt it. Sure, McDonald's uses those Teflon sprays on their fryers, and that is not ideal. But still, if you do so, you'll have better health than your current diet you're having. So eat, I can safely say from all the testimonials online, you can safely, and actually it's a good idea to do so, eat as much fatty ruminant meat as you're comfortable with, because your health will improve tremendously. You will find women online that they were on menopause. Listen to me. They started having more fatty ruminant meats, and of course they were doing their sex lives unprotected because they were on menopause, and they got pregnant again. Just to see how powerful this is. People on menopause are used to having a lot of symptoms. If you had more fatty ruminant meats, if you do a mostly carnivore but ruminant based diet, zero or very close to zero symptoms. Women that lost their periods when they were young got their periods back just by eating more fatty ruminant meats. People like me and many others, like Jordan Peterson and whatever, that were depressed or pissed off or highly revolted with life, had ADD or bipolar or obsession or ACD, any sort of mood disorders, psychiatric diseases, schizophrenia, mental degenerative issues like how do you call it, Alzheimer's, like Parkinson's. All of the other people improved tremendously, gradually, and most of them eventually go to zero symptoms for the first time in their lives since they can remember. Many of them say, I got the body that I had when I was 30 years old. It's amazing. How can this be possible? I feel better than in my 40s. People, and then you see some doctors, some very high, good intention doctors that do some blood works, and they say, but your levels are horrible. You must stop that. And I say, this world needs to stop with the papers, needs to stop with the measuring, needs to stop with the scientific studies, because most of them are corrupt, are mistaken, are poorly made. And who knows? Like, science is very pure now. We don't have all the answers. And so to say that this level is better than that level, is just irresponsible. And we need to start looking at evidence, personal testimonials, and see this person feels better than ever. All of her symptoms or all of his symptoms are gone. So who cares if in a paper or in some numbers are not equivalent to what doctors have been taught that are the ideal numbers? As a very relevant example, I'll quickly summarize that back in the day, like a long time ago, the medicine was based on pure bodies testing. So if you were poor, if you didn't have a family, if you died, nobody was going to reclaim your body. And so you end up in the morgue and they see your body and they conclude that that is a normal body. And they were looking at some parts of the body and they started having people in the hospital and whatnot with symptoms. And they, because they saw a size, I believe it was their thyroid, I'm not sure, that was big, and they were used to seeing on the medical books very small thyroids because the medical books were made from pure unnourished people. They started concluding that everybody that had those symptoms and showed up in the hospital had enlarged thyroid or some whatever gland, but they didn't. They had perfectly sized gland or whatever, that organ. And they started prescribing meds, pills or whatever, some treatments to reduce the size of that gland that was perfectly sized. I know from personal knowledge a guy that had like an organ in his body that was not like the medical books. It had a weird shape, but he never had any symptoms. But the doctor said, "Oh, you need to be cut up. You need to be have a change in your body." And so they cut him up. They changed and changed, and they made a lot of adjustments. And yeah, so many cutting, so many adjusting, and he never had symptoms. So why? What for? So why are we not listening to symptoms, to anecdotal evidence? Science these days are demonizing anecdotal evidence. The only true evidence is personal evidence, is anecdotal evidence, is personal testimonials. I don't care what it says in a paper that is best for you to eat rocks and to drink wine. If I see that if I eat rocks, I get a tummy ache, and if I drink wine, I feel numb in my head, I'm not doing those. So, what do you prefer, to listen to words in a paper or to listen to proof in your own life, proof in the people around you? So, even with life in general, why would you just listen to a book, even if it's a very renowned book, instead of listening to the proof in front of you? That love, that caring, that understanding, that tolerating, that being forgiving will always lead to the best results. I hope you enjoyed this video, or at least found knowledge, found value in it. Please do leave a comment, share your experiences. I love hearing your thoughts. And look in the description because I'll probably add the chapters there. And yeah, if you find valuable this type of content, I always publish new videos. Do subscribe, it helps me a lot. And if you know somebody that will benefit from this type of information, please share my video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.